Joining me again, longtime media veteran David Shuster and media columnist critic John Ziegler. John, what do you make of the Don Lemon news?
Well, I mentioned in the previous segment that I think there's a Donald Trump connection here for both Tucker Carlson and for Don Lemon. Tucker basically had to pretend that he was pro-Trump for years to placate his audience. And I think that Don Lemon pretended to be far more liberal than he really is to placate what CNN's audience became. The reality is Don Lemon is not a liberal, and he was playing one. And people that know him know this. And there have been many clips in the past that have shown that he's not nearly as liberal as he has pretended to be. So it's kind of ironic and I think appropriate in a weird way that two guys who lost their way and who they really are got fired on the same day. As far as him being surprised, I'm a bit shocked by that because everybody knew he was going to get fired. I was told very credibly many months ago that CNN was going in a completely different direction philosophically, and that he would be on the chopping block. I talked about it on my podcast, The Depth of Journalism. It turned out to be true today. So this is not a surprise at all. And I don't think anything that happened, there was last week or in February, was the final straw. I think they were just waiting for the right moment to do it, and now is the time.
I don't think it was about politics. I think it was more about style. Don Lemon was about Don Lemon. If I think of Dan Abrams through the years, I can think of O.J. Simpson trial or police interactions. John Ziegler, I'll think of Sarah Palin documentary, Penn State. David Shuster, I might think of Monica Lewinsky, CIA leak case. With Don Lemon, you think of, isn't that the guy who got tattoos on New Year's Eve and got drunk and made a sort of a fool of himself? What journalism was he breaking in these 17 years? He was about the guy who was saying, look at me, look where I am.
Well, you mentioned who you were roommates with. I was office mates with Don Lemon back in the day when he was a reporter. When he was a reporter at NBC News, he was reporting on stories. He was breaking news stories. Now, you may be right that he became more of an analyst, but I think that that's a little unfair to say that he's any worse than anyone else who hosts TV shows. I think most of the cable news folks out there are clownish to some degree.
But you never got drunk on New Year's Eve. You wouldn't allow yourself to get a tattoo. You know, I mean, but Don embraced that. He was told, hey, mop up the personality, make the shtick even louder, and he embraced it.
But morning shows do that, right? Morning show TV. What about all the people who get dressed up in the Halloween costumes and this and that, right? I mean, I don't know. Ziegler, look, it's not like you're some huge Don Lemon fan, but I would think that you'd probably be with me on this one.
Well, I'm not shedding any tears that he's gone. I don't think he was very good. But weirdly, Dan, he didn't offend me as much as a lot of other liberal anchors do. He was pretty open when he was pretending to be liberal, what he was, even though it was pretend. I think there are a lot worse offenders than him. I think he got a little bit too big for his britches. I think he loved the celebrity. Look at the pictures you're showing. I mean, he fell in love with the celebrity part of this, and that's not what news anchoring is supposed to be.
Right.
And so, I don't think it's a bad day for journalists.
CNN put out a statement. Don Lemon's statement about this morning's event is inaccurate, meaning when Don Lemon criticized CNN for the way they handled this. He was offered an opportunity to meet with management, but instead released a statement on Twitter. It sounds like they're just quibbling over whether they were actually offering him an opportunity to be fired in person or to be fired via his agent. I don't know that makes a particularly material difference.
Having been fired many times, Dan, I always prefer to be fired in person. I mean, personally, that's always the way I prefer to do it.
To do it in person, I don't know. It's brutal to get fired in person. But look, let me just make a personal note on this. I consider Don Lemon to be a friend. I like Don Lemon. I have long known Tucker Carlson. And as I said before, I know Tucker more in a professional capacity, but I had long been a supporter, an advocate for Tucker Carlson. So, there's no joy on my part today in either of these events, in evaluating what happened here. Everyone you're looking at right now has been fired in some way, shape, or form. It stinks. And, I don't think anyone should be dancing on any graves in this context, but it is important, and I think it's instructive to understand why these things happen, whether they're justifiable, whether there are standards that are set that are applied the same across the board. These are all important questions to ask, and I just wanted to make sure that we're clear on that as we talk about this. David Shuster and John Ziegler, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Well said there, Dan.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.